Scott Aaron is internationally acclaimed and award-winning network marketer. He's a business coach, an author, a speaker, and a podcaster. And his specialty is being the go-to expert when it comes to converting traffic, establishing connections, and creating residual income using LinkedIn. Scott Aaron, welcome to the Be the Solution podcast.
Well, hey, Maria, it's great to be back and looking forward to today's conversation.
Absolutely. So, yes, I had you on way back when in
Years
the beginning
ago.
of the pandemic. So, a few years ago now, and we're doing some revisits with some of our favorite guests. So, welcome today.
Thank you.
And today we are going to be talking about LinkedIn for real estate professionals.
Yes.
So, Scott, we want to give our listeners the most amount of great information. So, let's dive right in.
So, obviously, if you're unfamiliar with LinkedIn, obviously I want to make you familiar with it. It's probably the most underutilized business professional platform out there. I think everyone is pretty commonly using Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn ends up becoming like cousin from the other side of the family that no one really communicates with and only sees them at family reunions and stuff, and just gets kind of pushed to the back burner. And I kind of noticed this myself back in 2013 when I was looking to make a pivot into the online space. For those that don't know me, I used to live in Philadelphia. I had 3 different health clubs in the Philadelphia area. I was a personal trainer and sports nutritionist, and I was the pure definition of trading time for dollars. If I wasn't training people, I wasn't making money. And when I was looking to start growing my online business, obviously I wanted to start charging a more premium price instead of what I was charging in person. And I started to think, well, where can I do this? Where can I go outside of my warm market to make more connections? And that ended up being LinkedIn. I ended up creating a systematic flow that I was able to patent and then obviously sell. And I've been teaching it ever since, nearly for the last 11 years. Now, the people that, in my opinion, that benefit best from utilizing LinkedIn are service professionals. And real estate professionals are service professionals. You are providing a service. You are helping people sell their house, buy their house, rent a house, and so on and so on. So I've worked with numerous real estate professionals, going from people that have their own real estate firm to the individual real estate professional to the real estate investor, whether it's on the commercial or residential side. But it brings up a lot of significant questions. And, the first question that it brings up is like, how do I even use LinkedIn? So the way that I like to describe LinkedIn in a very, very simple form, I call it the 4 layers of LinkedIn, meaning if you kind of break down LinkedIn and look at it as like a layer cake, and each tier gets smaller as you go up. If you remove one of those tiers, it's going to topple over, because one aspect of LinkedIn must connect to the next. And what I'll say is the foundation of what people need to do on LinkedIn is making sure that your profile is optimized. So for people that don't know this, when LinkedIn was bought out by Microsoft back in 2014, 2015, they embedded search engine optimization into our LinkedIn profiles to make it not only searchable and easy to find on LinkedIn, because it is a search engine itself, but on Google, on Yahoo, on Bing, all the other major search engines. And here's the thing. If your profile is not optimized, it's not being seen, it's not getting visible, and you're losing opportunities for business. So what you have to think about is, how can I really optimize my LinkedIn profile to make sure that potential ideal clients will find it and obviously network with me and obviously take the next step in doing business together. So if you start thinking about specific keywords that really correlate to your professionalism, and that starts with the headline of your LinkedIn profile. This is, where you would put real estate professional, real estate expert, residential real estate professional, all specific keywords that are going to position you not only in that light as the expert, but you have to think about, what is the end user, the person that's on the other side of the computer screen? What are they searching for? What are they putting into the search bar that will allow my profile to populate? So those are the things that should be going in your headline. Outside of that, it's making sure that your about section or the summary section truly highlights your journey of business. And, I always tell people there's 3 keys to a proper LinkedIn summary section or about me section. Making sure that it's written in first person. So I, not third person like Kramer from Seinfeld. You need to be telling the story, not someone else. You are telling your own story. The second thing is making it at least 500 words in length. Why 500 words? It shouldn't be a couple sentences, but it shouldn't be a drunkalog like 3-page story. It should be a couple paragraphs. And this is letting people know, obviously, where you've come from in the business world, what changes you made to get to where you are now, and what your core focus is moving forward. People don't care about what you do. They care about why you're doing it. And that's what you want to express in that summary section. Outside of that, making sure that the experience section is filled out, listing obviously at the very top what you're currently working on. But I get this question all the time. I actually did a keynote over the weekend. I was in Boston giving a keynote to a group of business professionals. And one of the questions that came up during the Q&A session was, should I delete all of my old experiences if it's not related to what I'm doing now? And my answer is always no, never delete your experiences, because you have to understand that your LinkedIn profile is giving the person that's visiting it a clear picture of your own business journey, the things that you've done and the things that you're doing now. Obviously, I came from the fitness industry. I still have my gyms listed on there. They're just buried at the bottom because I haven't been in the industry now for almost 8 years, but I'm not going to negate the 16 years that I spent in the fitness industry. It's what allowed me to become who I am today. Now, adding in your education, and I'll give you a quick little tip on that. Unfortunately, there is ageism on social media and specifically LinkedIn. So you do want to remove the dates at which you did attend those colleges or universities, but making sure that you have all of your licenses and certifications, especially in real estate. You need to list those because people are looking for credentials. They want to make sure that they're working with the right person. Volunteer experience, so any philanthropic activities that you participate in, obviously you want to add those in there. But I would say one of the key aspects to your LinkedIn profile is something called the recommendations section. The recommendations section are your testimonials. This is where your social proof is built. So I make it a common practice to ask for 5 recommendations every single month. That's part of my routine. And I've accrued now almost 530 written recommendations on my LinkedIn profile. So when people go visit it, they don't question if I know what I'm doing, because there's over 500 people that say, yes, this guy knows what he's doing on LinkedIn. You should work with him. So you want the words of others to speak for you so you don't have to. So really go through your connections on LinkedIn and ask current colleagues, past colleagues, current clients, old clients, people that can speak to your credibility and your professionalism. Ask them to write you a recommendation. But more importantly, let them know that you'd be happy to write one back in return. Collaboration is big, but scratching each other's backs is even more important because you have to give in order to get. So make sure that not only are you asking for a recommendation, but let them know that you are offering to give one back in return. So getting your profile optimized is huge.
I have a question.
Yes.
So there's all kinds of places where we're asking for the recommendations or testimonials.
Right.
One of being which is Google. Google is a big one. Mm-hmm. So are we asking the same people to give us recommendations across different channels, or are we asking different people?
Well, if you're connected to those same people on LinkedIn, you can absolutely do that, but it could be different people. But here's a little
because like how much can you ask somebody to do something?
Exactly.
That's what I'm thinking about.
So here's a little productivity hack. And so if someone has ever given you a video testimonial or a written testimonial on Google, here's what you can do. Take a screenshot of it from Google. And there's a section on your LinkedIn profile that's called the featured content section. And this is where you can add media. you can add a picture, you can add a video. So if you want to add some pre-existing testimonials from outside sources outside of LinkedIn, take the screenshot on your computer, throw it up in your featured content section. You can even put the direct link to the Google review itself. So you're still taking people to a different site of where that recommendation was written, but it's still a testimonial that can be shared.
That's great. So in this featured content section, say I have a publicity book. Is that something that could sit there?
Yeah, so you can add as many things as you want to your featured content section. LinkedIn typically shows the top 3 things. So what I always recommend for people are ways to get people from online to offline. So what are some things that I can do where if someone is to view, click, or look at something, it's going to take them to a much desirable resource or area where it's building even more credibility. So to your point, you could have a publicity book on there. I have one of my books listed on there where people can click on and actually buy it off of LinkedIn. If you have a calendar link or a way for people to book calls with you, you can put your calendar link. If you use Acuity or Calendly, you can put your website. So if you want people to go visit and learn more about you, you can put that up there. You could have whatever you want. So my biggest thing, if you're going to use that featured content section, make sure what is being featured adds to your credibility and your expertise, but also drives traffic from online to offline, because I always tell people, do not forget that social media is rented land. You need to make sure that you're taking people off of social media onto somewhere where you can collect that email address, where you can then continue to nurture and build that connection with them offline.
That's the goal, right?
100%. If you're not building an email list, you are going to be out of business before you know it.
The goal is having a human connection.
Correct.
So you amassed 500 recommendations over the last, 5 years?
Well, no, that's been since 2014. So the last 10 years.
So it's a slow process, yes or no?
I mean, that's 50 recommendations a year, which is almost 2 a month. I think that's pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't call that slow, but it is.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, right?
It's a consistency thing.
To put that negatively, Scott, but
no. But
Amazon,
it's about consistency.
And you can get Amazon. I can have it here in by 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Never left the office, right? So I'm talking more about like it's a kind of a delayed gratification. This is not something that's going to change in a moment of overnightness.
It's the 401k formula, meaning.
Okay. Well, I think it's important that the listeners understand that this LinkedIn is different.
It's a long game approach.
It's a different play. And, you could have given up 10 years ago when you started, but you really dug in deep on LinkedIn. You wrote books about it. So how did this, I'm curious, this part of it, how did this come about?
So when I initially started using LinkedIn to start doing more online consulting and coaching, more for wellness, because I wanted to expand my book of clientele that way, because I kept having people reach out to me and say, hey, I wish I could work with you, but I can't because you're in Philadelphia, I'm in LA, but now I had a way of doing that. So I quickly grew a very successful online coaching and nutrition practice just by leveraging LinkedIn, connecting with the right business professionals. And I never sold and pitched them. I would literally just get on calls and just network and, learn more about them and maybe some pain points that they had. So as I was getting these results, I reached out to a couple of friends of mine that were also in that sales arena. If they weren't closing sales, they weren't making any money. So I reached out to a bunch of my friends and I told them, here's what I'm doing. I'm doing A, B, and C. And again, this was the very beginning because I really was still kind of getting my feet wet with it. And I had one friend in particular, 2 weeks after I told him of what he should be doing, he shot me a text message and the text just said, dude, call me. So I called him and I said, what's up? And he goes, listen, I don't know what you figured out with this whole LinkedIn thing, but you cracked the code here. He goes, I have 14 appointments booked this week. You should be teaching this. And I said, what do you mean I should be teaching this? He goes, you should be training and teaching other people how to leverage LinkedIn the way that you are. He goes, Scott, it's just like you personal training someone's body. Now you're personal training someone's business. And I'm like, that's a really good correlation, because the way that I saw it was, if I could help people build a better body, I can help people build a better business. And then at that point, I kind of took it to the market. I started, posting about, LinkedIn tips and things that I was doing and how people can work with me. And the rest was history, as they say.
So I have down here that a couple things. We want to remove the dates from the college education.
Correct.
We want to add any volunteers. We want to use the recommendation section and work towards 5 recommendations a month or a week, depending, I guess, upon how aggressive you want to be with it. Tell your own story, 500 words or less. Moving forward, why you are doing it, not so much what you are doing, but why, what's the passion behind it is what I got.
Yeah.
And then I have here the feature content section. This is where we can add videos, pictures. We can do a screenshot of the Google review itself and then add the link. And then also this is where we can book a calendar link for booking calls and add any of the other things that we want to add to this section.
Yes.
So would this make our profile optimized?
Oh, if you do those things, absolutely. I mean, I have a free download on my website, scottaaron.net, that gives you a visual representation of this, but following those tips will better optimize your profile 100%.
So now we optimize the profile. Now what?
So now it's thinking about the network that you want to build. So prior to really strategizing around the types of connections, people were following this spray and pray methodology, where they were just clicking connect with anyone and everyone with a pulse. And people continue to ask, well, why are people not responding to my messages? Why are people not accepting my connection requests? Why are people not engaging with my content? And there's 2 reasons for that. Well, number 1, your content may really stink, or 2, you may have the wrong type of connection. So whenever I'm teaching people this, especially in the real estate world, you need to think about some of the best clients that you've ever served. Not from, how much of an ROI they got on selling their house, or the best deal that you got them on the multiple offers on the listing of the house they were vying for. You have to think about, is there a common trend of types of business professionals or types of people in industries that you work with? Do you serve a lot of service professionals? Do you serve a lot of doctors and lawyers? Who are your best clients? You need to build a network of connections that are your ideal clients. So go back to some of the previous houses that you've closed on or help people sell, and start kind of going through and making a list of, what did these people do for a profession? What is their professional background? And again, always attracts likes. So you should be connecting with people that have similar business backgrounds of those that you've already served. And the other beautiful thing about LinkedIn is that you can filter by local area. So on LinkedIn, you're allowed 30,000 connections. So if you're in the Philadelphia area like us, you can connect with all these professionals in the greater Philadelphia area. So literally, you're funneling people that are all potential buyers and sellers. Now, the other type of connection that you want to think about having is what I call power partners or business allies. So think about, from in the real estate world, who are great connections to have to introduce you to new potential clients. That could be title insurance brokers. That could be mortgage brokers, right? That could be commercial. Yeah, it could be commercial real estate. It could be lenders. It could be banks. Like, you need to form as many business allies as possible, because the more relatability that you connect with the network that you're building, the more potential you're going to have for getting on connect calls, the more potential you're going to have for business coming in, and the more potential you're going to have for your content landing on the right set of eyes, because it's relatable and it's connectable. That's the whole thing. So you have to build the right kind of network. You don't want to spray and pray. You have to be clear on exactly who it is that you want to connect with from a potential ideal client standpoint and a business ally standpoint.
there's so many shiny objects, Scott, that people get, I'm going to say confused, but let's use that word, about where they should go, how they should spend their time.
Mm,
Because not all time is created equal, but all time is not spent equally creating the right opportunities.
right.
So we have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, X, Threads, whatever other ones that I'm missing. Those
Right.
are enough. And you want to spray, you're all over the place,
Yep.
right? How do you decide what to do next? And
Well,
maybe this sounds a little elementary,
no,
but
it's
even for myself, who's been in
seasoned.
professional sales for 31 years,
Yeah.
you can go in a lot of directions.
So what my wife and I always talk about is choosing a social media platform to lead with. So you're always going to have a North Star. So you're going to choose a social media platform that is your North Star, and then you are going to spread your words, your content, your value, your education, your information to all the others. It's called being omnipresent. So even though I lead with LinkedIn on everything that I do, I am on every social media outlet. If you search my name on Google, you'll see my LinkedIn profile, you'll see my threads, you'll see my Instagram, my TikTok, my YouTube, everything. Because you have to create a journey for people. So when people connect with me on Instagram, I'm funneling them back to LinkedIn. When people are connected to me on Facebook, I am funneling them back to LinkedIn. When people are watching my TikToks, I'm funneling them back to LinkedIn. So all I'm doing is using the other social media platforms as channels to drive them back to where I want them to be, which is LinkedIn, because that's where you're going to educate and inform the best. But people would be naive to think that their ideal clients aren't everywhere. They are. Your ideal clients, your business allies are spending time on all the social media platforms that you're spending time on. But you have to optimize your time. So for me, I block out 30 minutes a day to do the necessary activities that I need to do on LinkedIn, but also spread that same message across the other social media platforms. Obviously, you and I have been connected for over 10 years now. You know, we see each other's stuff on Facebook all the time. But the idea is to be omnipresent because you don't know who's watching and when they're watching. And here's an interesting statistic that people need to understand. When it comes to LinkedIn, 90% of people on LinkedIn, and this goes across all of social media for that matter, are passive engagers. Most people are watching from the sidelines. They are not jumping into the game like you. So if you're not producing consistent content, you are missing opportunities to get the necessary eyeballs on what you're doing. So my best advice is to pick that North Star social media platform, but still do the necessary things to be omnipresent on all of the others.
So let's talk about posting.
Mhm.
In regards to posting, what is daily?
Well, when it comes to LinkedIn, it's different from the other platforms. Facebook, they recommend 3 to 4 posts per day. Instagram, they recommend 1 or 2 posts a day, and then your story, and then a reel a day. TikTok, they recommend 1 to 2 TikToks a day. LinkedIn is completely different. So LinkedIn, I always recommend posting 3 times per week, and I call this the bookends. You have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right? So you have the bookends, which are Monday and Friday, and then sandwiched in the middle is what I call your market research. So if someone was to say to me, Scott, if I could pick 3 days to post on LinkedIn and I can commit to those and I would post on those 3 days, what would they be? So the first part to that question would be posting once on Monday, once on Wednesday, and once on Friday. So that takes care of that question. The second question would be, okay, I've committed to those 3 days. What am I posting on those days? So Monday is always your audio visual day. That is a video. So it doesn't have to be a long training like I typically do. I do 2 LinkedIn lives Mondays and Thursdays. They're 15 to 20-minute trainings. I am not saying do that. Not in the beginning. You can work towards that. In the beginning, they should be 30 to 60-second short video clips. And these are just tangible tips, right? So for the real estate professionals that are listening or watching this, it should be, maybe a home buyer's tip. So things to look at. Here's, one tip on making the home buying experience that much more enjoyable. Here's your single tip. You give the tip, you sign off, you're done. That's it. People have very, very short attention spans. So you need to take that into consideration. So the key is whenever you're producing on content on LinkedIn, it needs to do one of two things. It needs to educate your audience and it needs to inform your audience. You're never selling, you're never pitching, but you can include a call to action at the end of everything that you do. So in that little tip video, you can say, if you're interested in learning about my home buying experience and how I can help you, if you're potentially looking to sell or buy a new home, please connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message, or choose to follow me. Have a great day. So you do want to give some sort of directive of how people can take that next step if they're ready to. So Monday is your audio visual day. Wednesday is what I call your market research day. So there is a feature much like on Instagram and Facebook. You can conduct LinkedIn polls. It's a feature. If you're on LinkedIn, all you have to do is hit start a post. There's 3 little dots, which gives you all the pre-templated things that you can do, whether it's a video, a picture, a document, and you'll see this little bar graph, and it's a poll. You click on it, it's going to pre-template it for you. It's going to have ask your question and then your responses. Here's the thing. You should never be guessing what your audience and what your ideal clients are struggling with. You should never guess. You have to ask in order to find out. So what you should be doing once a week is taking the temperature of the network that you're building, right? And a simple question could be on a Wednesday, what is the most frustrating aspect of the home buying experience, right? Too much inventory, interest rates, other, comment below. So now what you're doing is you're putting out to this audience that you've built, finding out what's upsetting them, what's holding them back, what's frustrating them. So now you're collecting this market research data from the network that you're building that's going to help you create further content. And this is my structure. So if I was a real estate professional and I put that question out on Wednesday and the majority of the people voted about interest rates, you better believe come Friday, I'm doing a post about 3 things to consider when buying a house during the current interest rate market, and things that you can do to better it, whether it's doing a 15-year ARM or a 30-year variable, whatever you want to do. And you're going to list a couple different tips, and you can leverage the market research poll that you did. And in that post on Friday, you can say, I just wanted to reference something that I conducted a poll earlier in the week asking what people were frustrated with. The overwhelming response was interest rates. And here are 3 tips of what you can do to overcome current rise in the current interest rates in the market. Here's what you can do. 1, 2, and 3. Which tip did you find most helpful? With a few hashtags, and you're done. And that's going to be your content cycle. Audio visual, giving a very tangible tip, market research on Wednesday, and then from that market research, a Friday tip from the data that you found out from that market research poll.
Sounds simple enough.
It's rinse, wash, and repeat. You just got to do it. Every master was once a disaster. That's what T.R. Vecker talks about all the time. So in the very beginning, this may seem like a big undertaking, but think about anything that you've done for the first time, especially entering into the real estate world. You pass that real estate exam. Do you know how overwhelming and how stressful it is when you're doing your first showing or you have your first open house? You're like a chicken with its head cut off. You're running around. You're not really sure what to do. But again, after you get through that experience, you realize it's not that big of a deal. The second one gets easier. Third gets better. Fourth gets better. And then you're off and running, just like that content example strategy.
Absolutely. And it's all about time blocking and adding it to your schedule.
We always make time for what's most important to us. So if it's important for you to be seen and more visible on LinkedIn, you'll block out that time and you're not going to give it away to anything else, and you're going to get the job done.
There's no other way to do it. And really, I mean, in my experience, nobody can really do it for you. Right? We have to create the content. We have to make the video.
Well, I mean, you can use ChatGPT for some prompts. I always tell people I love AI. So if you're kind of frustrated, you're like, man, I don't know what to post about this week. I don't know what I should ask. I don't know what I should say. Go on
You
to
know what I
ChatGPT.
do?
Ask ChatGPT.
Well, I post all the things that you like see my videos, if you see them, they're all based upon what's going on. I just post about things that are happening now,
And there's a lot happening right now.
right? So I'll talk about it. It's really, I make it relevant to, it could be, for example, there was in September, there was a flood or rain, lots of rain at Burning Man. So I talked about Burning Man, and I talked about when I was in Burning Man, right? And what I've learned from Burning Man and how it helped the growth of me personally by attending that. So things that are top of mind, right? You can always go with that. Things that are happening, things that are in the news already, even sports. For those people that watch sports, bringing that into videos, and how do you say, okay, well, XYZ favorite team did this, and how did they get to do that? How were they able to do that, right? It always comes down to like they're experts. They practice and practice and practice and practice and practice.
Well, they're also they're solving for problems. Think about the Eagles from this past weekend, right? Their linebackers did not do the job. Linebacker, and they just signed one of he's a 4-time All-Pro from the Indianapolis Colts. So they went out there and they tried to seek out a solution. And that's the big thing. You have to be proactive in business. If you've defined a problem, you have to provide a solution. And again, that's what this podcast is all about. So if there's a defined problem, there's a defined solution. There is a solution to every single problem. You just have to be forward thinking enough to go after it and realize that it may not be the easiest journey, but it's going to be well worth it at the end.
Absolutely. There's always a solution. Everything's figure outable.
Yep. Marie Forleo says it best.
That's right. Marie Forleo. I love her. She's got great energy.
We do
good
too.
Lady.
Great book. Great book.
Done a lot of really good, cool things.
Yes.
But Scott, I just took, while you were speaking, I took 2 pages notes. I wrote all over the side of your actual bio was going off of earlier in the back. And I think this was great information. Thank you for sharing this with the real estate professionals, the realtors out there that are listening to this. And always great to see you. I am so excited for your journey that you've been on and all the success that you've had. And I haven't met your wife yet, but she seems like a very cool lady. And you guys are doing some great things together. So keep on trucking, keep on doing the work, and keep on showing up. I see your posts. I like them when I see them. Or I make that little heart thing, the care thing, because that I use that one a lot personally. But
I like that one too. And again, it's about supporting each other and cheering each other on. And obviously, there's prosperity is out there for all of us, and it's just about being consistent and doing those things each and every day. Being a person of value, you will never be unsuccessful if you're a person of value. That's people invest in other people that invest back in them. And obviously you are one of those persons. I consider myself one of those people as well. It feels good to be doing business that way because, they always tell you you'll never work a day in your life when you love what you do. I can tell that you love what you do. I love what we do, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, that's all great stuff. As they say, Scott, the cream rises to the top.
Always.
Right? Great opportunity in life and in business today to do more, be a more contribution, which is why we're doing this podcast and brought you back. And also, a lot of people need help today.
Yeah.
More so than ever. So a lot of challenges in our world, different from pandemic time, of course.
Agreed.
But challenges nonetheless. And I think a lot of it is here too.
Yep.
Right? So
mindset's big.
Keeping others going and being a lighthouse for others.
Yeah, I love that concept. The 6 inches between our ears will either hurt us or help us, and it's your choice of what it's going to do.
Yeah, and sometimes we need a minute.
Of course, everybody does.
Everybody, yeah.
Agreed.
But it was great to see you, Scott. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time and your expertise. So thank you for being on Be the Solution.
Thank you, Marie. Appreciate you as always, and great to be back.